I think 7th is about where I have the Los Angeles Rams. This team is gritty, and they get after it in that pass rush up front on deep.
If you agree with Field, and I do, there is value on betting the Rams to win the Super Bowl right now. Davante Adams still, every time you target him inside the 5 or 10 yard line, he is creating separation and scoring TDs. According to Field, and I agree, they should probably be closer to right here, 16-1 near the Commanders.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Los Angeles Rams in tonight's video. I actually did like a fun little video a few days ago, and I predicted the top 5 teams in the NFC, or I should say teams that could genuinely win the NFC. And I threw the Los Angeles Rams in there, and it's funny, I haven't talked about the Rams in 3 months, and I do apologize for that, but it's clear as day. You got Matthew Stafford, you got Davante Adams, you got the head coach, you've got dogs on the defensive line, you've got the skill players. The secondary, like the cornerback room, people are freaking out about in articles, and we're going to discuss all that in tonight's video, and I just don't really see it. So I had to do some research. I had to do some digging because, to keep it a buck, we got to make way more Rams videos just in general. But it's weird. Expectations 1 year ago were very different for this Rams team, and I remember it because people were saying like the Rams were going to like win like 6 games this past season. And it's like, okay, well, their quarterback's Matthew Stafford. And this isn't, you know, the Detroit Lions. No disrespect to my Detroit Lions, or I'm a Packers fan, but I like the Lions, got some family in that area, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's different situations here. And so they come out and they win the NFC West title, and they win against the 14-win Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round, and then they take on the Philadelphia Eagles, and they had a perfect opportunity to win that football game and just fell a little bit short. And so Cooper Kupp no longer in town. They pick up my man Davante Adams, and it's like, all right, this is a Super Bowl contender, just like they were last season. So I was reading an article from Brad Gagnon on, I think it was Bleacher Report, and he was doing like ranking the NFL's top 10 offensive skill position units entering this season. And you know, he had the Los Angeles Rams coming in at 8, and I think just genuinely any team that would be like in a top 10 on that list, like any team with offensive firepower, I get it. We just saw the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know they ran all over the Rams last season, and you know that's why you go out there and pick up guys like Poona Ford. But when you have an offense with dudes like Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, Kyren Williams, now you got Terrence Ferguson, it's hard to bet against an offense like that. And you look at Matthew Stafford, and I don't even need to give him any comments because he's one of the league's most accomplished quarterbacks. And Davante Adams, Hall of Famer, possible Hall of Famer, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams. You've got Terrence Ferguson, who Sean McVay just compared him to like Travis Kelce. And the nitpick to this offense is, all right, Davante Adams is 32, Matthew Stafford is 37. Didn't see it last year. You know, didn't see the age drop off last year. If anything, it's more of an injury concern, but you got to protect Mr. Matthew Stafford, and we'll get into all this. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Once again, I do apologize for my lack of Rams videos, like honestly in the last year. I don't really know what was up about that. But hit that like button if we could try and get this one to 100 likes, folks. Means the absolute world to me. When you look at the roster, it's one of the best rosters in the National Football League. And just like, you know, we keep talking about these skill players, you know, Puka Nacua led the NFL with an 85.9 PFF receiving grade, and he also earned a league best 92.6 grade. So the guys are dogs. Sorry, I said that wrong. The receiving group was an 86 PFF grade. Puka was almost 93. And Cooper Kupp, Demarcus Robinson, they depart, but you bring in Davante Adams. You still got Tutu. Jordan Whittington, you know, we saw him in preseason. We saw him obviously last season. He's also kind of just a gem in the back pocket. Wouldn't be surprised if he broke out this past year. The bigger issue for the Los Angeles Rams on offense last season was the pass protection, all right? And you know, we saw it with the offensive line, whether it was injuries or what, but, you know, the pass protection wasn't the best. And the offensive line was the league's 3rd worst pass blocking grade, and the Rams also went 7-1 when their pass blocking grade hit at least 62, and then they lost 7 of 11 when it fell short of that threshold. So I look at guys like Steve Avila, who I remember after his rookie season in 2023 where he had a really good like 65 PFF passing grade for a rookie. I remember like people talking about him being like a franchise left guard. And the reason that didn't come into fruition last season was, obviously the injuries. And, then his stints at center, it was just kind of a discombobulated offensive line last season, whether it was injuries or what have you. And if he can bounce back into form, you also bring back Coleman Shelton. I don't really have too many concerns about this offensive line, man. I think if this Rams offense can just genuinely stay healthy, then I don't think they're going to come into too many problems. And before we talk a little bit about the defense, because, I really liked the Nate Landman move. I really loved the Poona Ford move. That was one of the best in the business on the interior defensive line with the Los Angeles Chargers last year. But the tight end room was a big issue last season for the Los Angeles Rams. And so their first draft pick, round 246, Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. I know I say it wrong, but I'm from the Midwest. He tied Oregon's single season tight end record with 43 catches, and his 591 receiving yards were the second most in a season by a tight end in team history. And it's funny because we always look at like tight end statistics and they always feel underwhelming in the sense of like NFL Madden franchises, but obviously being second most in a single season in team history at the tight end position, he's obviously got some talent. It's why he was drafted in the second round, 46th overall, and it's the first time we've actually seen, or the earliest we've seen, the Los Angeles Rams draft a tight end since Gerald Everett at 44th overall, all the way back in 2017, and that was Sean McVay's first season in Los Angeles. So this is the bottom line here. The Rams had the fewest receiving yards in the NFL from their tight ends last year at only 459 yards. So once again, I don't, the tight end room wasn't the biggest flaw with the Rams last season, but it is going to make a big difference. And I know Higbee's, I think he's on the last year of his contract. I like Kobe Parkinson. It is a little bit biased, though. I got a golf podcast, and it's kind of a random story. I was interviewing his girlfriend at the time. I think they're married now. I was interviewing his girlfriend at the time because she played D1 golf at Alabama, and he popped in at the end of the interview. I don't know, that was just really cool. That was a surreal moment. So I'm loving the tight end room. I'm loving everything about the Rams offense. And then I guess we're kind of running out of time here, so I'll keep it brief with the defense. If you guys want a full defensive video, let me know down below. Obviously, their front seven is one of the best in the business. And then especially like we just mentioned, the addition of Poona Ford, that really, really makes a huge difference. I know it's kind of crazy to think like one guy can make a big difference in one category, especially at nose tackle, but it really isn't when you watch Poona Ford last year at Los Angeles with the Chargers. And like I said, the big concern everyone's having is the defensive back room. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams made a move, because I guess you guys were trying to acquire Jalen Ramsey, but you got Darius Williams, you got Witherspoon, you got Quentin Lake back there. I like the safety room a lot with Cam Curl and Cameron Kitchens. Love the double K names, but I don't know. I really, further development, health, coaching, I just don't really have concerns with the secondary like everybody else does. So maybe we'll save that for a whole video. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Give me a loose win-loss projection for the Rams down below. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace.